streak.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto-penned. Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorite.
How many illegal immigrants did Barack Obama deport in his 8 years as president?
Oh, I don't know.
Have a guess.
No clue.
No clue. Interesting, right? You don't know.
I mean, I know it was a lot, but I don't know the exact number.
Have a guess.
Oh, I don't know.
The answer is over 3 million.
Damn.
He was known as deporter-in-chief by Mexicans.
Yes, and that was more than Trump.
Way more than Trump.
Right.
Deported way more than any president in history. Who dropped the most bombs in a calendar year in American history?
Barack Obama was once celebrated as a smooth-talking visionary destined to reshape America, a political icon whose image seemed untouchable. Yet behind the glow of media adoration and carefully staged moments, the reality told a different story. Broken promises, flat policies, and a legacy more style than substance. When Joe Rogan and Piers Morgan ripped into that facade, the myth unraveled, exposing Obama not as the revolutionary he was sold to be, but as a master of branding who delivered far less than the hype.
Seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorite.
How many illegal immigrants did Barack Obama deport in his 8 years as president?
Oh, I don't know.
Have a guess.
No clue.
No clue. Interesting, right? You don't know.
I mean, I know it was a lot, but I don't know the exact number.
Have a guess.
Oh, I don't know.
The answer is over 3 million.
Damn.
He was known as deporter-in-chief by Mexicans.
Yes, and that was more than Trump.
Way more than Trump.
Right.
Deported way more than any president in history. Who dropped the most bombs in a calendar year in America?
When you look at the policies and the attacks on whistleblowers and drone strikes and all the other shit that happened during that administration, and the coup in Russia, and like there's a lot that's from a foreign policy perspective that's very similar to what George Bush was doing. But what they were doing was highlighting social justice issues that came about during his administration, largely obscured the fact that the foreign policies were very similar to what George Bush.
Joe Rogan wasted no time taking Barack Obama apart. Peeling back the polished exterior the former president worked so hard to maintain, and revealing something far less impressive underneath. Obama had been celebrated for years as a cultural icon, the eloquent speaker who could charm crowds and drop a playlist like a DJ. But Rogan went straight for the heart of the myth. He reminded everyone that behind the carefully managed charisma was a politician who perfected the art of saying everything while doing almost nothing. For all the talk about hope and change, what America really got was a carefully branded image campaign that fizzled into the same establishment mediocrity everyone pretends didn't happen.
Perfect example of the abundant hypocrisy of the left.
How many people Barack Obama deported in 8 years?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Well, why don't you guess?
I don't know and don't care.
Well, hang on. You don't know and you don't care. You've just given me.
Because it's not the issue.
Hang on, Joy.
Nursing babies apart and taking.
Joy, you've just given me.
I'm sure going to tell me it's your main issue.
You've just given me.
Is that what we're seeing?
I'm trying to finish my sentence. You've
Please.
just given me a lengthy monologue attacking Donald Trump's aggressive deportation policy. And I've simply said to you, there was a black Democrat president of the United States for 8 years. I'm simply asking, given that you're obviously all over every detail of the Trump deportation policy, and given you were on the airwaves in America on a daily basis through Obama's tenure, how many people did he deport in 8 years?
I do not know. You'll tell me, I'm sure.
Have a guess.
But it's probably about more than 1 million people. I'm quite certain.
Have a
because
guess.
I think each 2 million.
It was 3.
Rogan dissected Obama's legacy with surgical precision, calling out how he coasted on media adoration rather than substance. This wasn't a warrior for justice. It was a guy who gave great speeches while Wall Street walked away richer and foreign policy got bloodier. Rogan's punchline came from hammering the disconnect between Obama's image as the cool, relatable leader and the reality that he left behind a trail of drone strikes, mass surveillance expansion, and the kind of bureaucracy that makes government look like a corrupt country club. He framed Obama less like a hero and more like the world's slickest salesman pitching a dream he never delivered.
Obama's lying about that in front of the whole world. They lie about everything. You don't think they would cheat?
And I'll knock on some wood here because we got 2 months left. I am extremely proud of the fact that over 8 years, we have not had the kinds of scandals that have plagued other administrations.
If every word that comes out of your mouth is a lie, you can't tell me that I'm not allowed to suspect.
And because I had made a promise to the American people that I would not fall into some of the familiar habits of Washington.
When you're doing like low-level scam, like small counties where you have corrupt people that are working the voting machines. How many Republicans are paying attention?
That I wanted a new kind of politics. And at the end of 8 years, I think I can say to the American people, I delivered on that commitment.
How many Democrats are paying attention to the corrupt Republicans? There's always been election fraud.
I think it will be up to him to make determinations about how he wants to approach it. I know what worked for us, and I think it served the American people well.
Pretend that we lie about the very fine people. He said there were very fine people on both.
What really stung in Rogan's roast was how he spotlighted Obama's knack for cultivating celebrity status rather than leadership. Obama wasn't a politician in the traditional sense. He was an influencer before influencers ruled the internet. His Netflix deals, podcast attempts, and book tours looked less like a former commander-in-chief's post-presidency and more like brand extensions of celebrity who never wanted applause to end. Rogan compared it to watching a former heavyweight fighter who refuses to leave the spotlight and starts hawking diet supplements on late-night TV. For Obama, the supplements were inspirational memoirs and playlists packaged in glossy covers and Spotify banners.
Glass of water. This is not a prank. You never seen it?
No.
It's amazing. He gets a glass of Flint tap water. I swear to God, he drinks it like this. Watch this.
Can I get some water? I'm still waiting for my water. I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
it's
that.
It's 100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? No, you bring water on stage.
Then came the gut punch. Rogan tore into Obama's obsession with maintaining moral high ground, while being just as cynical and calculating as the politicians he once pretended to replace. Remember the drone program, the NSA's ballooning surveillance, the deportation numbers that shattered records? Rogan dragged all of it into the light, noting how Obama's legacy is largely defined by contradictions he never had an answer for because the media was too busy marveling at his swagger. He wasn't the outsider challenging the system. He was a system, wrapped in a fresh suit and marketed as revolutionary.
When Obama welcomed the president-elect Trump to the Oval Office for that 90-minute meeting that Trump thought was going to last 15 minutes, Obama looked like Tutankhamun. He just his skin was so drawn across his face. It's like a snare drum.
Well, he must have been so exhausted.
Well, I think any presidency
is going to be taken over.
Just any president, like George W. Bush.
When Piers Morgan entered the roast, he added a different flavor, the kind of smug British sharpness that doesn't bother with subtlety. Piers cut straight to Obama's fixation on image, pointing out how every move seemed staged to make him look like a Hollywood protagonist. From the perfectly timed pauses in speeches to the endless photo ops, playing basketball or singing with celebrities, Piers shredded the idea that Obama was authentic. He looked less like a statesman and more like a man auditioning for the role of president in a movie no one asked for. For Piers, Obama wasn't just overhyped. He was overscripted. Rogan doubled down by slamming the cult of personality that followed Obama. People still hang on his every word, treating him like a sage, when in reality, he perfected the art of speaking in sweeping generalities that sound profound but mean nothing. Rogan highlighted how you could feed an Obama speech into a random slogan generator and get the same result. Hope, progress, togetherness, future, change. It was motivational word salad, served up with perfect cadence. Rogan mocked the fact that Obama's greatest gift wasn't leadership. It was tricking people into thinking that vague inspiration equaled transformation.
The biggest attacker of the press in modern presidential history was Barack Obama, actually, who was extremely draconian.
I never defended Barack Obama on that.
And I was interested earlier.
Piers, I never defended Barack Obama.
And I was interested earlier because you were talking about how Trump put people in cages and all this kind of thing. Do you know who deported the most people in American presidential history?
Yes, Barack Obama, and I called him out for...
The roast only got more brutal as Rogan pointed to Obama's failure to live up to the promises that defined his rise. Guantanamo Bay remained open. Corporate money flooded politics harder than ever. Wars dragged on. Yet somehow, Obama still skated by as the darling of the progressive world. Rogan exposed that disconnect as pure performance art. Obama mastered optics, slow claps, relatable anecdotes, witty comebacks. But when it came to disrupting the establishment, he was as timid as they come. Rogan painted him as a guy who talks tough in the gym, but never picks up a weight heavier than 10 pounds. Piers jumped back in for his second shot, this time honing in on the cult of elitism Obama represented. He pointed out how Obama thrived in a bubble of academia, Hollywood, and media cheerleaders who adored him not for his results, but because he reflected their worldview back at them with eloquence. Piers ridiculed the way Obama could walk into a room full of celebrities and journalists, and everyone would trip over themselves to fawn at his presence as if they were in the company of royalty. Morgan's barb was simple but devastating. Obama wasn't a man of the people. He was a man of the cocktail circuit.
You're guilty of massive amounts of misinformation and disinformation as a part of a propaganda campaign.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has directed federal prosecutors to launch a grand jury investigation into members of the Obama administration over the 2016 Russia investigation.
A lot of them are guilty of it.
Yeah,
a lot of the people that are in that White House press conference, a lot of the organizations they work for, distributed absolute lies.
Total lies.
Tulsi Gabbard declassified documents that she says shows Obama administration officials manufactured intelligence to make it look like Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
How many of them during the whole Russiagate thing?
Some people think that the Russia thing was real.
Yeah, still.
I mean, the whole Steele dossier where it was like completely concocted.
Funded by the Clinton campaign.
Rogan expanded on that, highlighting Obama's post-presidency as proof. Instead of working at a grassroots level or tackling systemic issues he once claimed to care about, Obama cashed in on speeches, multi-million-dollar Netflix deals, and endless book tours. He transformed from the symbol of change into the embodiment of the political elite. Rogan mocked the idea of Obama as a warrior for social justice when he now spends his time on yachts with billionaires and strategizing how to stay culturally relevant. He framed it as the ultimate grift, running as a champion of the working class, then retiring as a brand ambassador for global elite. What really hammered Obama was Rogan's relentless focus on hypocrisy. He sold himself as anti-war but expanded military interventions. He promised transparency but presided over whistleblower crackdowns. He spoke about unity but fueled division by playing into identity politics, whenever convenient. Rogan hit these contradictions one after the other, leaving no room for excuses. By the end of Rogan's segment, Obama looked less like a misunderstood leader and more like the politician who conned America with a smile and a slogan.
Obama just said that on stage.
Obama just said that. Our Constitution protects the right to practice free speech.
He doesn't give a
Here in the United States, countless publications provoke offense. Like me, the majority of Americans are Christian, and yet we do not ban blasphemy against our most sacred beliefs.
He doesn't give a They're just going for it.
As president of our country and commander-in-chief of our military, I accept that people are going to call me awful things every day, and I will always defend their right to do so.
Flat out lie.
Efforts to restrict speech can quickly become a tool to silence critics and oppress minorities. We do so because, given the power of faith in our life, the strongest weapon against hateful speech is not repression, it is more speech.
Flat out.
Piers made his third entry with a jab at Obama's obsession with media appearances. He mocked the constant desire to remain relevant by chiming in on cultural debates years after leaving office. Whether it was commenting on political fights, releasing carefully curated playlists, or popping up in documentaries, Piers ridiculed the desperation behind it all. Obama, in Morgan's view, isn't a statesman offering wisdom. He's a clout chaser trying to stretch 15 minutes of fame into a lifetime. For someone who once held the highest office in the land, he behaves like a fading pop star, refusing to stop touring. Rogan's blows kept coming as he dug into the psychology of Obama's pedestal. He exposed how Obama built his career on exploiting the hunger for something different, selling himself as the antidote to George W. Bush's disasters, only to replicate many of the same policies with cooler delivery. The brilliance, Rogan argued, was that Obama convinced people to accept disappointment by dressing it up in rhetoric that felt uplifting. He normalized mediocrity by making it sound poetic, a trick that only works once, but one whose impact left millions blinded to how little actually changed.
Separated families. Oh, that would be Obama.
Do you know
who dropped the
now,
most? Hang on, I'm finished yet. Do you know who dropped the most bombs? Do you know who dropped the most bombs in a calendar year? Oh, Barack Obama. Do you know who ran illegal drone programs that killed thousands of innocent people? Oh, Barack Obama. Do you know who actually campaigned in 08-09 to shut down Guantanamo Bay because as a former lawyer, he knew it was an illegal torture chamber? Oh, it's still open. So I'm afraid, Mehdi, your revisionism
this is the problem, Piers.
of Saint Barack against evil Donald doesn't quite cut it.
Piers closed out his fourth and final strike by pointing to the hollowness of Obama's legacy. Strip away the speeches, the photo ops, the celebrity endorsements, and what remains is a record of half measures and compromises that please no one except the entrenched powers. Piers argued that history will be less kind in the present, because eventually the hype wears off and the receipts remain. Obama's mythos was built on style, not substance. People were hypnotized by the cadence of his voice, the polish of his image, and the sense that he represented something greater. But strip that away, and you're left with another politician who played the game, enriched the powerful, and left ordinary people waiting for promises that never came. Rogan called it the greatest magic trick in modern politics, convincing millions that words alone could substitute for real change.
Did it, where he repeated that lie about Donald Trump talking about white supremacists, saying they're very fine people on both sides. Let's play it.
Said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay?
That's crazy. I have never seen that lie.
The critique dug deeper than just surface-level charm. Rogan dissected the way Obama mastered optics, turning speeches into events and appearances into cultural touchstones. He wasn't selling policies. He was selling inspiration. It was a performance so compelling that people forgot to ask whether anything tangible was being delivered behind the curtain. For 8 years, many mistook poetic delivery for progress. Yet, the scoreboard for the average American remained unimpressive. The wars continued. Wall Street thrived. The communities who had pinned their hopes on transformation saw little more than polished rhetoric echoing through town halls and late-night interviews. By the time Rogan peeled back those layers, the illusion began to look almost comical. He drew a picture of a leader who was more brand than man, a figure manufactured for television screens and magazine covers. The carefully tailored suits, the effortless smile, the pauses and speeches timed with surgical precision, all of it became part of routine, like a stand-up act rehearsed until every beat hit with maximum effect. But unlike a comedian whose jokes land in laughter, Obama's routine landed in the quiet disappointment of unmet expectations.
The accusation, they're throwing around the word treason.
I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016.
They're saying that Obama knew that Russia did not meddle in the election, did not have any impact.
Rogan went further, mocking the absurdity of treating speeches like policy victories. It was as if eloquence itself had been elevated to the status of governance. A well-timed joke or a dramatic pause in front of a teleprompter was treated like the signing of historic legislation, and the media played along, celebrating performance as though it were achievement. The result was a presidency remembered more for its aesthetics than its accomplishments, more for theater than the outcomes. Piers stepped in to drive the knife deeper. He underscored how the myth of Obama was never just about politics. It was about elitism masquerading as relatability. Obama was portrayed as the everyman who could hang out at a basketball court, share a beer, and sing Al Green on stage. But Piers ripped that apart, highlighting the deliberate calculation behind every display of authenticity. Nothing was spontaneous. Every move was curated for the cameras, designed to sell a fantasy of accessibility, while his actual orbit was filled with billionaires, celebrity fundraisers, and corporate kingmakers.
Absolutely must hold every one of these criminals accountable for the crimes that they committed. They are the most heinous crimes committed in American history.
But yet promoted this idea.
James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Biden was in the meeting. They briefed Barack Obama on Hillary Clinton's plan to, quote, tie Trump to Russia collusion lies. It consumed our national discourse for 5 years.
And then there's been some incredible clips of all these different news reporters, CNN and MSNBC, just saying over and over and over again.
What made the roast sting even more was how they contrasted the expectations with the reality. Obama was supposed to be a disruptor, someone who would challenge the entrenched system. Instead, Piers framed him as the perfect guardian of that system, soothing public anger with flowery speeches, while ensuring the gears of power spun just as they always had. It wasn't revolution, it was maintenance with better marketing. Together, Rogan and Morgan dismantled the myth piece by piece until nothing of the aura remained. They portrayed Obama as the political equivalent of a slick salesman, the type who dazzles you with a smile, talks in circles that sound profound, and then leaves you with an overpriced product that doesn't work once you get home. The product, in this case, was a promise of hope and change, a box wrapped in shiny paper, heavy with anticipation, but empty once opened. By the end, Obama had been stripped of the aura that shielded him for so long. The roast exposed him not as a revolutionary, but as a carefully constructed product of media worship and establishment safety. Rogan painted him as a smooth-talking salesman who delivered an empty box wrapped in shiny paper. Piers added the finishing touches by exposing the vanity and elitism that defined his brand. The combined effect was devastating. The myth collapsed under the weight of reality, leaving only the image of a man whose greatest skill was not leading, but selling himself.